We also have on the line right now Steve Restivo, Senior Director of Communications for Wal-Mart Public Affairs and Government Relations. We asked Steve to come on because there is a vote that is pending in the District of Columbia. The city fathers, in their infinite wisdom, are pushing something called the Large Retailer Accountability Act of 2013. And here's what it really boils down to. If you are a firm that has a footprint, your store is 75,000 square feet, then you would be required under this law to pay your employees $12.50 an hour. Every other retailer in town that has a smaller footprint, smaller than 75,000 feet, would only be required to pay their employees $8.50 an hour. So we thought that was sort of unfair. At least I do. I feel that's inherently unfair to have two different standards. And Steve, it seems to me that what is going on here is that Walmart is being penalized because it's large and successful.
Well, Brian, Larry, first of all, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to have me on. And I would agree. I mean, our position on this from day one has been this legislation is not only arbitrary, but it's discriminatory for the reasons that you cited. And we're not alone in our opposition. There are folks like the Retail Industry Leaders Association, National Retail Federation, obviously the Chamber, a host of business organizations, small business, and residents who just don't see a lot of logic in imposing arbitrary limits on some businesses and not others.
And yet, in the first reading, this passed on a vote of 8-5.
It did. We were really deeply disappointed in the council's decision. We think that it'll ultimately lead to higher prices, less jobs, and fewer stores from some of the country's largest brands like Walmart and Lowe's and Home Depot and Macy's and Target.
Hey, Steve Restivo, Walmart is often the target of unions. They're constantly angry at Walmart. They're trying to organize at Walmart. They consider Walmart to be anti-union and anti-worker. Do you think that a big part of that is motivating this, and are the unions influencing the D.C. City Council?
Well, I think there are a lot of special interests working behind the scenes to make sure this thing passes. I think, if you look at two of the largest grocery chains in the country, Safeway and Giant, they both remain exempt from this legislation for some reason. And I think that fact tells you everything you need to know about who's driving.
Wait, so hold on. So even if if Safeway has an 80,000 square foot store, they don't have to pay their employees a living wage, but Walmart with the same size store does.
Correct. And I think the broader point from our perspective
So the D.C. Council doesn't care about the workers at Safeway.
Well, that's for you guys to say. But I think from our position, our wages and benefits already meet or exceed those offered by most competitors in the city. And so we'll continue to offer a competitive wage, great opportunities for folks to move up the ladder at Walmart. We've got lots of success stories right now happening in both Maryland and Virginia, and we're looking to bring those to the city as well.
Why is it that Walmart always seems to draw so much of this kind of stuff? It seems like every time you guys go into a community and say, we're going to put up a brand new Walmart store. And by the way, I was in a brand new Walmart store down in Florida the other day. That's one of the nicest stores I've ever been in. I mean, you couldn't ask for a nicer store. Well, why is it that you always seem to run into this?
Well, I think in some of these cases, the louder voices just don't represent the majority opinion. I think even our loudest critics in the city wouldn't disagree with the fact that when we open a store in Washington, D.C., we're going to have thousands of people come out and apply for just a few hundred jobs. And when that store opens its doors, we're going to have tens of thousands of people who make the choice to shop there every day.
And don't you, when you say your wages and your benefits are competitive with the rest of your competitors here in the district, how does it square up against what they're calling a living wage? What is your average salary? How does this work out?
Yeah, so, for hourly associates, we go ahead and we just felt like there was so much misinformation out there, it was just important for us to flip all of our cards over. So we post the average hourly full-time wage in every single state we do business in. In Maryland, it's about $12.04 an hour. In Virginia, it's about $12.39 an hour. But I think the thing that those wage figures don't speak to is the opportunity that folks have to move up the ladder at Walmart. About three-quarters of our store management teams across the country started as hourlies. Their average pay is between $50,000 and $170,000 a year. Our highest-earning store manager last year earned more than $250,000. So if you want a career in retail and you come work at Walmart, there's probably no better place to move up the ranks and have your own personal success story.
You're saying that in Maryland and in Virginia, you pay roughly what the district is suggesting you should pay.
Our average hourly full-time wage, those numbers that I cited, about $12.04 in Maryland and $12.39 in Virginia.
Well, then it seems to me that what you're doing is you're opposing this law on principle.
Yeah, we just think it's discriminatory to just pick winners and losers in a market and set wage figures for some businesses and not others.
You're specifically saying full-time hourly wage. Does the living wage law that the council is considering here, does it affect only full-time workers, or
it applies to all workers? But I think an important point, again, from our perspective, most of our folks work full-time. It's not the case at many of our competitors.
What are your part-time workers making?
We don't share those wage figures because most of our folks are full-time, so we think the most relevant statistic is that full-time average hourly wage.
And what about benefits?
Benefits are as inexpensive as $17 per pay period. That's about $8.70 per week. That premium's about half the national average for single coverage pay period. Preventive care is covered at 100%. We cover about 1 million Wal-Mart associates and family members.
Well, so we really should call this what this is. This is some members of the council who have people like the grocery stores who don't want the competition that comes from having a Walmart in here, who are throwing this up just because they want to penalize you, not because if they really cared about higher wages, seems to me what they'd be doing is saying to the other companies, well, you need to pay what Walmart is going to pay.
Well, I think beyond that too, I think everybody's asking the same question: why would a city embrace legislation that discriminates against business at a time when it's touting projects like City Center and Skyland and Walter Reed? It's got double-digit unemployment in some areas, and it's trying to prevent its residents from spending more than $1 billion with a B dollars out in the suburbs every year. It would seem that they'd want to encourage things that attract businesses, not create arbitrary hurdles that discourage them.
Good point. Steve Restivo is our guest. He's the Senior Director of Communications for Wal-Mart Public Affairs and Government Relations. We're talking about this living wage bill that the D.C. Council passed. Now I guess it has another 2 hurdles to go. The full council has to pass it, and then it goes to the mayor's office. Let me ask you one quick exit question. Assuming that you go forward with all of your plans that you have for the district, how many stores are you looking to open in the coming years here in the District of Columbia, and how many employees do you plan on hiring?
Well, we've announced 6 stores, 2 in Ward 4, 1 in Ward 5, 1 in Ward 6, and 2 in Ward 7. They'll employ about 1,200 people total. Again, those will be mostly full-time jobs. And, we're going to continue to engage with council leading right up until the next reading on July 10th. We also, think it makes sense for Mayor Gray to veto this discriminatory legislation because it runs counter to every economic development platform his administration has identified as a priority for D.C.
Well, we appreciate you coming on because we wanted to get some clarity on this issue. Steve Restivo with Wal-Mart, thank you for joining us this morning.
Guys.